So anyway, who are you, Maru?
Well, that's a very deep question, right? But well, the short answer will be yes, Maru Garcia. I'm a transdisciplinary artist and researcher. I'm originally from Mexico, and I'm very happy to be here with you all. Do you want? Is it recording right now? Yes. Okay. So we're set and ready to go. Okay. So in that case, let me just start my presentation and window tab. Already practiced this. So yeah, my art practice is mixed with my research, and my projects live at the intersection of art, science, and environment. And today, I was telling Levi that I'm talking about the project that I haven't started. I'm actually in the beginning of it, which is exciting, but at the same time, it's like there are so many questions, so many things going on and happening. But still, I think it's really great to share this because as I can share with more people, I've been receiving a lot of feedback and a lot of great ideas. And I'm sure that a conversation and also great ideas can happen after this presentation. So today I will be talking about this project that originally was called PB Put It Back, but it's probably going to change name soon. But anyway, I will call it like that right now. But it's a project that talks about lead contamination in Southeast LA related with the Exide case. So this project started as a commission art piece for an exhibition that will happen in 2024 um, from the Pacific Standard exhibition organized by the Getty Foundation. And in this case, I was invited by this gallery called Self-Help Graphics and Art that they are putting together an exhibition that is called Six Places We Call Home. So just in case you don't know about this gallery, this is an art gallery that is located in the Boyle Heights area. It's a gallery that it's mainly focused on Latinx and Chicano and Chicana art. And they do great work in terms of inviting community members to learn and explore the possibilities of printmaking art and other type of visual art too. Um, they mix art and social causes, and yeah, I think they do a great work in that they have a very long history providing that type of community space for this type of community. So when I was approached by them to do this project, I was very honored and I'm very excited about this possibility. So in terms of the exhibition, Six Places We Call Home, their Self-Help Graphics is trying to conduct research to inform and develop, and I'm reading right now, the reality of the environmental disparities faced by people of color. And the exhibition is focusing on two sites in Los Angeles County. In this case, the one that I'm working with, that it's the Exide battery plant in Vernon, and the former ExxonMobil Oil Corporation site in the Willowbrook neighborhood. And another artist is working on that site. So yeah, the idea is to work through these years so we can really work with the community, really try to understand what is happening and propose something related with these two realities and problems are affecting the communities around it. So in the case of Exide, and I don't know if you are familiar with this situation, this was something that I actually didn't know about. As I came here to the US, I learned about the situation through making some research of like contamination problems that were happening in the city. And it was very, very easy like that this pop up because of the magnitude of the problem. So just like a quick background, this happened because a company called Exide Industries that is located, as I mentioned, in Vernon City, or Vernon, I don't know how it's pronounced. It was performing for 30 years battery recycling in their facilities. And while they were doing that, they were expelling arsenic and lead to the environment. So you can imagine through the years, this lead that was in the air eventually got deposited in the ground, in the soil. So what that meant was that also, like, this is a very industrial area, but around that industrial area and inside of the industrial area, there's a lot of people living. And what happened is that people are starting to notice that something was happening. And fortunately, they're like coming from the same community. Two groups were formed. One specific one was like responsible to start researching about this and actually demanding the government to close this site. So after a lot of effort and like really community organizing and protest and everything, it was possible and really a big thing to make this this facility close. But that happened like 2015, around 2015. So what it's the result of that is that right now, well, the government in this case, in the name of using this other organization, that is the Department of Toxic Substances Control, DTSC, they're the ones that are in charge of investigating and then also cleaning up the area. What they discovered was that like the perimeter that they started to reach out and to sample and see how was the situation covers around 1.7 miles around the company, but that includes around 10,000 properties. So you can see the massiveness of the problem, because this is just what DTSC determined as the preliminary investigation area, which they call PIA. But it doesn't mean that outside of that PIA, there is no contamination in the soil. So what we, well, in this case, we can see in databases from the government is that there were some places in which contamination were like even higher than 1,000 parts per million of lead in the soil. So we're talking of very heavily contaminated places. Some of them, of course, the ones that are related with children use, in this case, schools, childcare centers, or parks, were the ones that were prioritized because, of course, the difficulties and like the danger that this imposes on children. As we remember, of course, like this is a neurotoxin and it creates a lot of problems in the development of cognitive the cognitive development of children. So this particular is very presents a lot of concern. So right now the parks and all the childcare centers are already cleaned, but that doesn't mean that the places in which these children live are actually clean, because as you can see in this graph, so of the total of 10,000, more than 10,000 properties are in this PIA. And the 9,000 that were sampled, no, it's 8,000 that were sampled. 80% of those are actually contaminated in levels that are higher than 80 parts per million, which is the limit in California for lead. So what we are seeing in the right is what is happening right now. So the government is doing the cleanup process, in which what they do is that they go to each parcel, and then after sampling and determining which are the properties that have priority, of course, depending on the lead contamination levels that they're presenting, they are right now actually with properties that are above 300 parts per million as their priority. So right now, these are the total parcels cleaned out of the 80% of 8,000. So we're still like very slowly advancing this cleanup, and the rate that is happening right now is around 80 to 100 properties per month. So as you can see, this is taking long time. And as this is happening, of course, people are still exposed to this. And yeah, basically children, they're still playing around their own backyards and having this situation in their own homes. Just a quick note before, I don't want to skip that part, is unfortunately, this is something that happened, and is that the company that was doing all this um, was able to just pay a little bit of money, like of something that DTSC asked for the cleanup. But then in legal battles, they won, and then they are now free for any charge, and they can just leave all these areas contaminated without any other thing to consider. So that's, of course, something that puts us to think about this environmental injustice that these communities are basically people of color are facing. So that's kind of the background. And I actually started to research about Exide before this project. And I can show a little bit of my previous work where I was going around these neighborhoods and checking like what was happening, starting to learn where the what are the situations in which these communities are really like living in the middle of industrial sites and all that. So for that, I started with a series of work. In this case, one was called Playground, and involved going to different parks in the area, taking some soil samples, and then putting that inside of a contained like plastic like a bag with gloves. So the idea was to have like an installation in which people could see like the space in which the samples were collected. These samples were collected from, as I was mentioning, the parts that showed contamination in the soil. And the idea was like to invite, in a way, people to interact with this contaminated soil in a protected way. Of course, this is a piece that wants to like talk about the problem and face this reality that people are living. That was in 2019, and then I continued with the research, and I continued with what were the implications and what was the system of, of this lead contamination happening in general. So if we are trying to understand the why and like the reasons, but also the consequences, there is like this system, this unsustainable system in which we live, in which we have our need for transportation, and then we have this city that is built for cars. There is a big push from all companies and all that to really have everyone transported just by cars. So what do car need is like, of course, oil, but also batteries. So we are incrementing the need of car batteries, and actually that's another situation that like this type of smelter industries are needed because of the amount of cars that we are now using. So there is another level of concern in my case, and it's because the regulations are getting tougher here in the US. And guess where are they sending these batteries to? Yes, you guys were right. They're sending to other countries, in this case to Mexico, and other countries in which like we have to take care about like this contaminants now in our own homes. So this kind of is like this piece is called actually Vacuos, and this piece wanted to point out to these different levels in which lead is impacting the different participants in the system. So we have the cars, we have our need for movement, we have children playing in parks where soil is contaminated. We have even like wildlife that it's impacted also by lead. There, I found out a lot of some research that were saying that there is like even aggressive behavior happening in birds. So there is a lot of things that are like moved just by, I don't know, in this case, talking about lead. There are other contaminants, but in this case, that was that one. So I wanted to go farther and I wanted to research more what to expect about this. And that's how I entered like the bioremediation class at the time that I was at UCLA. And the idea was to find alternative ways to make remediation possible for this area. So this piece, the one that you're seeing in the screen, is talking about the problem, but also proposing the idea of bioremediation through plants. And in this case, the objects that you can see on the ground, they are representing, and they're called vacuoles, and they are representing the 29 child care centers, parks, and schools that were the most contaminated in the area, and which inside contain soil coming from this sites, and are encapsulated in this ceramic oval shaped ceramics. I wanted to use this as a metaphor and as a response that I wanted to offer to plants, in which they do themselves this encapsulation in their own vacuoles, the organelles that they have in their cells. So that's kind of the inspiration for this piece. And yeah, that was also having a interactive component in which the invitation was to see ourselves as organisms capable of remediation. So following, this was kind of the background of the projects that I've done in the past, but now the idea and the invitation from Self-Help Graphics is to actually go to the community and start seeing alternative ways in which we can, as a community-based project, start to think in remediation, or at least avoiding exposure from soil, from lead. So we are encountering this, which I consider a very wounded soil and wounded communities, in which we have children that can present cognitive developmental problems, people that can be impacted by cancer and respiratory illnesses. There is a disconnection from soil because if if parents know about the situation, they won't allow their children to play with something as basic as soil. There is fear, there is pain, distrust, anger, and also, as I was mentioning, the non-human communities are also disturbed. So what we want to do for this project is that we really need to heal. We need healthy soil and healthy communities, and I start to think of soil not as a source of something that will that is a source of contaminant, but as a source of life. To try to make the connection with soil back again, being able to play, children being able to play in their own backyards, people being able to grow their own food, and in general, the empowerment of communities and building relationships. So that is what this project that I'm starting with this gallery is about. We want to use the power of art, science, and the community. And this is a collaboration that is happening between Self-Help Graphics, community members that we are starting to have a conversation with, artists, including myself, and scientists from the Natural History Museum and UCLA. And this team, we want to propose a method of reducing lead exposure for people that live in this area, and so that could lead to an alternative lead remediation strategy for contaminated backyards. And of course, the project includes the scientific research, and we are now thinking of the use of minerals and other natural methods that possess the capacity of lead remediation. And the idea at the end is the possibility of development of a DIY soil remediation kit. So these are right now our scientists that we are collaborating with. Aaron Celestian, he is the curator and the director of the Mineral Science Department at the Natural History Museum. His research is related with the use of minerals and how they interact with their environments, and how to use those minerals to solve problems like climate change, pollution, and disease. So he's the one that in our conversations has presenting the possibility of using minerals for remediation. And in this case, recently we started conversation with Maura Palacios from UCLA and Cloudy DNA. And the idea is to, as we are doing this project, this remediation, we want to also study the microbial community changes in relation to the remediation. And she has her research is actually involved with that. So what we are planning to do, and it's the project phases that I will just describe very briefly. We're having the scientific research, and it's the method of lead remediation with minerals. At the same time, the characterization of soil biodiversity. We want to create a community scientist pilot team that will help us to really go through this and help us develop at the end the DIY soil remediation or healing kit. And at the same time, we want to organize some community engagement programming that will happen as we are producing or making this research. So the scientific part of this is that we are using, we are gonna test, because we are in that phase, just testing the capacity of zeolites for remediation, lead remediation. What they have is that they have this structure that is capable of containing, like in this case, interchanging depending, because there are different types of zeolite. We don't know yet which is the one that we're going to use, but they have the capacity to actually encapsulate lead through ion exchange. So the idea is this is a type of amendment in which we will put it in contact with soil, and this interchange will happen. There is tons of tests that we have to do, but this is part of the scientific part. And as we are doing this, we want to consider the microbial communities that are affected throughout the remediation part. So we are right now starting with the preliminary soil sample collection. I'm sorry. The development of the analysis method for lead in the lab of the Natural History Museum. We are going to start soon the development of this remediation procedures with zeolites, and then evolve to a site-specific remediation with zeolites in one of our partners' organizations that we are trying to contact that it's around the area. And this will include, as I was mentioning, the eDNA characterization. And we want to see the microbial communities, how they're responding to the zeolite application. This is going to be possible as we are also involving community members to take their roles as community scientists, because what we want to do is to have this pilot team in which we invite community scientists to be the ones that are actually also sampling their own places. We want to invite people that are in the area and that are having the soil contamination happening in their own backyards. So with this, we want, of course, to provide training and materials for that to happen. And the idea is to have that as a pilot team, which we will follow up through time, so we can see the application after sampling, the application of this different types of remediation, or the remediation methods that we're proposing in the different backyards of people. So we want with this to help build new skills inside the community and increase the community-based capacity for the community to really be able to discover possible solutions to this. And as we are doing this, I forgot to mention, and I think I already, we are gonna have other events in which we invite people to workshops in which we talk about soil health, soil remediation, soil building, and everything related with soil, so we can also contribute to this healing that is needed for this community. And the idea is that after these efforts, eventually we might be able to have the development of these DIY soil healing kits. And we want this to be something that could be of course, safe, but also low cost and using just natural and alternative materials. And this is something that we want to think of not as a complete solution for this situation, but just as an alternative and basically as a method for containment of the contamination, or to reduce the exposure that these families are having to lead. So we don't want to say that the government, we actually want to keep making sure that the government is doing their job in cleaning this area. But I think for us, it's very important as member parts of the community and people, coming together to bring alternative solutions that are coming from people to people. And that's it. I don't know. I ran very quickly, but if there are any questions, suggestions, complaints, or whatever, I will be super happy to have your insights.
All right. Yeah, Sam, what's up?
Excuse me. That was very interesting. I really appreciate you sharing this with us. I have some questions, a whole bunch actually. So the contamination, how deep into the soil has it penetrated? And is that uniform?
It's not that deep. Actually, a lot of the analysis that have been done are basically happening at different levels, and the majority of contamination is just in the surface, so it doesn't get that deep. Yeah.
So that does make it plausible that people can do their own decontamination without like stripping a whole layer off of the land.
Exactly.
The other question I had is, what about lead in the air? So just to preface, I grew up here in Los Angeles, and when I was growing up with leaded gasoline, the content was enormous, and I know that it's much less now. I live close to a little airport where propeller planes go, and they still use leaded gasoline, and I'm sure that there's a lot of lead coming down in the air. Is that testable? Is that?
Well, the situation is actually right, like what you mentioned about the leaded gasoline. Yeah, even if like that right now is banned by the EPA, there's still ways that lead is dispersed in the environment. And actually, right now, as also you mentioned, LA has a very high baseline of lead in general. It's not just this area, but in general, there is lead everywhere because of the continuous use for so many years of the leaded gasoline. So it's still there, but in this area it's more. So the situation is like from this source, the one that was like coming from the Exide battery recycling plant, it's not coming from it anymore because that's closed. But and well, the studies show that the lead that came from there, it got already deposited on the soil. So there is no like new lead coming from there. But it's true, like there are other sources, and probably, we are still having in the air. I'm not completely sure to answer your question about like the analysis, but I'm sure that there will be a way. But I don't know like exactly how. And of course, we have to think about that too. Actually, there is another like concern about that because. And it's true, like people are saying, okay, you're coming to clean mine. And while you're doing that, you're actually like removing a lot of the soil and you're making dust.
Oh.
So some of the areas like will get again contaminated because of all the dust that is just flowing around. So it's something that it's very unfortunate because that means that we're just moving contamination from one side to the other. And really, I don't know what else to add to that, but it's a problem.
Yeah, actually, I was wondering what's currently done when they say like, oh, we're cleaning this up. Is somebody with the city or county just literally just scraping like the top few centimeters of soil, and then where did it put that?
They they take all the soil of your property, they put it in the truck, and they dump it in the landfill.
Oh.
Oh, so they're just
Okay.
moving.
So they're okay. Oh yeah, that's what I was wondering. I was like, oh, are they doing anything to like try to? Oh, so is it? So now it's just concentrated, and then it's probably gonna eventually leak anyway. Okay.
So yeah, it's basically, well, this is a very effective way to treat like places are contaminated, like and the people are living there. Like there's like you do it quickly for that house. But then of course this is very expensive because you have to basically move soil, which is very heavy. So there's a lot of logistics about that. Yeah.
So, has anyone figured out any sort of effective way of doing remediation of a heavy metal like lead? Like, I mean, I guess I don't know if they're chelating it into some, if there's like some way to do that at scale.
Yeah, well, there is like I've seen some research doing, and that was my first suggestion when we started to talk with Aaron. I was telling him like I've seen people treating this with phosphates, and yeah, in a way, it reacts with lead and it makes it less bioavailable. So would that be a way? He was saying, yeah, but then we have the problem of the phosphates themselves. So what happens here is that the good thing of zeolites, and if it works, is that it like in a way traps the lead. And even if you consume the zeolite with lead, it won't get out again. So it will pass through your system without like really creating a problem. So I feel that it's a really good way. Still, we're not sure that it will be that effective or in the amounts that we will need still. So it's still in like research phase. But there is a good potential, and a lot of other labs are working on that. So I feel that there's a chance.
Okay.
So I know.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Oh no. Where is it?
I was just going to say, I used to be very involved in the ceramic community, and there was a big transition from leaded glazes to fritted leaded glazes, where it was trapped in a frit. But I understand that under certain conditions, that can be broken down and leach out. Also, like certain acids would attack them.
Exactly. Yeah. What I'm of course not an expert in minerals and in organic chemistry. But apparently what happens is that once that it's encapsulated, it's like closed completely. Like it has like a way to really trap the cation inside and not allow it to release again. So
that's really great.
Yeah, I feel that like so far what I've heard about this research sounds great, but then like the practicality is what we really have to figure it out. Because it's different to have something lab level to really like work with real like large scale things. So yeah, I feel that the idea of this community science based project is really allowing us to think about that and to think about like scale, but also how can this really be something practical. So even like if it's the remediation is not like 100% effective, I think the fact that people are learning about this and we are testing this is also beneficial, because even like just the application of mulch has shown that it has a good way to reduce exposure to people. So even like putting that on top will help you a lot. So that's things that are so simple like that could help. And we are like considering having kind of sandwich layers in which we have like the zeolites, and we kind of cover that, and even like put mulch, and then I don't know if people want to later like have their own food, maybe having like raised beds on top that are like completely separated from the ground, things like that, like things that we want to really cover that so it's not another source of exposure for people. Yeah.
In terms of kit development, are you collaborating, or are you thinking about collaborating with the public lab of open technology and science?
Yeah, well, I think that's like the long term. I presented because that's kind of the idea that we had. We want to make this very accessible and like so anyone can do it. But yeah, I think that would be good. Like if this works and like the pilot test works, we will be able to then reach out to people that can make it like large scale and all that. Mm-hmm.
The eDNA stuff with well, I guess with looking at the bacterial communities, I guess is one of the things that people might be interested in looking at is bacteria that can actually process the lead and render it more inert biologically for other things.
Yeah, well, right now, like we talked about that, like bacteria that are living already in contaminated soil, like they have the kind of some capacity to survive in those situations. And yeah, try to see if there is like some correlation between some of the members of those communities with other bacteria that have presented, um, lead capabilities of processing somehow. The only situation with bioremediation, and that's why I love the idea of like plants and microbes and fungi. Like we are actually having communication with other labs or like initiatives that are having that. The only situation is like lead is not as like hydrocarbons that can be destroyed. Like the organism will just accumulate it somehow, but it will be like bioavailable anyway. So that's why like it's a little bit tricky when we consider like, for example, phytoremediation, like the idea of like the plants that I was talking of these plants that stabilize lead as they have the lead in their roots, which is great. Like it won't be like in the air, but that doesn't mean that the lead will be able to be there forever, because the plant, if you take it out, like it will be there. Um, so yeah, there's some limitations, but still, we don't want to say no, bioremediation doesn't work. It's more like how can we make this something that, for example, we start with the organisms, but also with the minerals. How can this could be like a holistic solution, if you want to call it something like that? So yeah, for sure, we want to make sure that also the microbial communities are not affected by our addition of zeolites, which shouldn't be the case, but still we want to see that through time. So yeah, we will have that as well. That's the idea, and that's what we are talking about, and I right now. Like as I'm saying, this is just a proposal. We're like imagining how this could be. So we're just starting.
And you're going to be presenting, so all the stuff that you're doing, you're going to be presenting the findings, and you said 2024?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, and a lot of people ask me, and how is this art? And it's a great question, because I actually think that, yeah, for me, the research is itself the art. We're artists as we're doing this. And of course, there is a way to present this in a more visual way, and we will work for that. But for me, the main objective is actually make this an alternative solution for these communities. So that's itself the objective. And if like the way that we're going to present it, it's like secondary right now for me. But yeah, it will come.
So are you looking for additional collaborators now, or?
We are actually looking, yeah, but like we are connecting with a lot of people, and people are like getting excited, which excites us too. Um, and yeah, we are super open to collaborations, to ideas, and also we are like really wanting to find grants for this. Because yeah, the amount that we receive from the Getty like doesn't cover like a real research as like the magnitude or like the scope that we are wanting. So yeah, we're actively looking for funding, for ways to really collaborate and work together. And yeah, I don't know if you have ideas, if you're interested in somehow participating, would be great. Part of our idea of having the programming that could be like periodical is basically that, like to invite scientists, to invite artists, to invite people to really also share with the community in different ways. So that could be another way to also collaborate through these topics that we want to put together related with soil, related with like regenerative practices or other ways to like enhance the community participation or just a relationship with soil.
Yeah, I guess, well, we can talk more about this offline, but maybe we can share something out to the crash list saying like, here's the things that we would want help with. So, I mean, because well, you and I collaborate with some of the same people like on the eDNA side, you
Yeah,
know,
exactly.
so.
And I was actually thinking about you, of course, that, yeah, we have to really bring more money to really bring more people. But yeah.
Yeah, I guess I can write another grant. Uh,
Which is the life of artists and scientists, you know? We have a lot of fun in common.
yeah, pretty much.
Well, I think that that's where one of the strengths could be the fact that this could either be an art project or a science project, and it doesn't clearly have to be defined as one or the other. Maybe you could use that to your advantage to get more funding from science organizations or foundations. And then I just wanted to make a comment about the practice. I think concentrating on the output or this visual exhibition, it seems like that's almost like not even the point. It seems like the whole point of this is social art. Like, how is this a social art practice? And I think that there's a value in that, especially when you're talking about how can we reimagine the way people think about soil and interact with soil. And I think that that's where you're pushing this social art aspect. And so I'm curious to see how you push that even further. And it's just been really wonderful hearing more in depth about the development of this project, because the last time we spoke was a while ago, and now I think we should have a separate conversation. Really wonderful.
Yeah, I think that the project is really evolving. It's like we started saying, yeah, we should just talk about the problem. And then it was like coming like connections and people like really like presenting themselves like ideas and everything. So I feel that every time that we have opportunity to present this, like really like this gets like richer. And I'm happy to be part of this and very like, yeah, I don't know, like it's really great to see that this could happen. Of course, right now I feel like it's still in paper or in the computer. So we still need to really make this happen. But I think little by little, and of course, like we started last year, but then COVID happened and it was also very difficult to really put together this. But yeah, it's true. Like I feel that it has a potential to be both, to be science and art based. And like, yeah, that's what we are thinking. Like, to just speak differently depending on the one, yeah, who is listening. But yeah, of course, this is like more of a art social based practice, and I can see a lot of opportunities also for like more type of performance based while we are doing workshops or things like that. We have a couple of ideas regarding that, so yeah, it's I don't know, it's just starting.
It's exciting.
But thank you for your comments.
Yeah, I think let's talk and then we'll ping the crash list about this. Because this is the kind of stuff I'm interested. Well, I know that. So LA Sanitation, you know, you probably like their whole like trying to do their whole like urban ecology index, and so this they don't do anything with eDNA yet, but over time that's probably gonna become the toolkit for being able to at least make statements about the biology in cities. And like so, but LA Sanitation is really looking at try and develop like these really like heavy duty quantitative metrics for what's going on in the ecosystem. So this is to me almost in mind like a prototype version of that.
Well, let's prototype together if you want.
Okay.
Yeah, and this is exciting, and of course, yeah, we're right now, as I was saying, open to ideas, to suggestions, and yeah, I don't know, anything else that happens inside like your circles, connections, or all are welcome. So.
Cool. Any?
So unfortunately,
Oh,
I have to take off, but thank you very much. I really appreciated this, and I think it's fascinating, and I look forward to hearing more about it as the
Thank
project
you.
goes on.
Thank you so much, Simone.
Good night.
Good night.
well, any final thoughts or questions before we wrap up for tonight?
I don't know if there are any other questions.
Oh, all right. Well, anyway, thank you, Maru, again for this, for talking to the crash community, and then we're going to keep this going and like loop people and just try to get ideas. Like, okay, like how do we start making things practical on this?
Exactly.
All right. So I guess without further ado,
So I stop.
yeah, if we want to